procrastinated long enough today. It's time to make this video. I got a lot to do. It's around 11 a.m. and I haven't done a damn thing. Nothing important or productive anyway. Anyway, luckily, this background won't be for much longer. We just put in for a brand new home. So me and my wife and my son are very excited about that. I'm hoping to continue to make videos or have the people that want to watch my videos later on, then I can do that in our new home. But we'll see what happens when that time comes. But I wanted to talk about when I knew I had a problem and justifying upping my doses as times went, and then those points of my life that those happened and why they happen, or the justification for them, that my Kratom addict brain justified me to use more often. Not bigger doses, just more often. So when I started taking Kratom, I was only taking it once a day and did that for a while, didn't have any issues. But when I bumped it to twice a day, once in the morning, once in the later evening, at that time I was working a graveyard shift at the prison. So I was working 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. and that was my shift. But a lot of the times I was going in at 2 p.m. and staying until 6 a.m. I'd work a 16-hour day. You know, correction staff years ago weren't getting paid very good, so I had to work a lot of 16-hour days. So when that time came, I was taking it twice a day, and my dosages were varying by the times, because if I would go in at 2 p.m., I would take it at around 1:30 and then go to work. And if shortly after that, whenever I would just work straight 8s when they took our overtime away, I wouldn't take those dosages until later in the day, because I didn't have to go to work until later, you know, in the evening time. So my dosages kind of were all over the place. But when I got a straight day schedule, where I would just work from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. was my schedule, I would take a dose before I went to work, so around 7:30, and then I would take another dose around 4 p.m. so I can go to the gym after work. And when I started doing that dosing schedule, I remember it was probably 2 months into that consistent schedule that I would take it around 4 p.m. But when I would go to bed around 8 or 9, I would have a hard time falling asleep. I would get really restless, and I couldn't pin it on the Kratom at the time. I thought I was just taking too much caffeine. Maybe there was a certain supplement I was taking, so I kind of wrote it off. Well, anyway, that first night that it happened, I remember didn't sleep that whole night. And then the next morning when I got up to go to work, I got it. I knew what it was. I was like, no way, my body got dependent on Kratom. So I went to work and went to the gate and I started working. It was a Saturday morning. It was just me and my sergeant at the time during that shift. And around 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m., I went to him and said, you know, I'm sick. I need to go home and get some medicine. I'll be right back. And he was cool with that. I was never one to leave work or take time off. So he was like, yeah, go ahead and go do it and come back. So I went home and I was contemplating it. I was like, okay, well, obviously this is my body's dependent on it. Should I do it? And that's when the justification came in. I was like, you know what, I will go ahead and take this dose today, and then on my days off I'll stop. Well, took it. Within 45 minutes I felt better. Okay, this is what it is. On my days off I'll stop taking it. Well, days off rolled around and I had a lot to get done. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to feel like crap today, so let's go ahead and just roll this into a point where I can come off when I don't have nothing to do. And as you guessed it, that time never comes. And I transferred from the state prison out to the federal prison. And again, in my state of Arizona, Kratom is legal, so I wasn't breaking any laws by taking it. So let's get that out of the way. But I transferred to a federal prison to work, and that's when the dosages became even a little bit higher, mainly out of boredom. When I was at the state, I was doing a lot more. I was a lot more busy. I was doing just a lot more things. But when I went out to the federal prison, I was a lot less busy. I guess you can say it's just a different type of atmosphere. It's a different type of institution. So while I was there, I was less busy. And with that being said, out of boredom, sitting down all the time, and I was on a range of different shifts. There was times where I was going in at midnight and staying until 4 p.m. Not because I wanted the money for the overtime, it was just mandate, short staffing, things like that. So my shifts were all over the place. I was never consistent. But at that point in time, I was taking 3 dosages a day, 5-gram dosages, so 15 grams a day. And again, those dosages were all over the place depending on my shift, but it was out of sheer boredom, not out of need, I guess you could say, just boredom to keep myself motivated, because Kratom does motivate you. So that's when the 3 dosages started. Now, I left the prison and came back to the mine, which is where I'm at currently. Different position, different job title, because now I'm an electrical apprentice. By the time I was a dam operator for tailings. And out there, that's when my dosages became 2-4. I remember I would go to the gym in the morning, and around 3 in the morning, and then around 5 a.m. I would take a dose. 10 a.m. I would take a dose, 4 p.m. I would take a dose, and 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. I would take a dose, so 4 doses a day. And that kept me going for a very long time. And at that time, I was an advocate for Kratom because I was back to working a labor job, and I was taking Kratom, so I was out there swinging a hammer, lifting heavy pipes all day, carrying wood. I was doing a lot of cool things, and that's what kept me motivated, kept me in a good mood, regardless of the snow, the heat, whatever we had going on. I was out there doing the work. So, and trying to be a motivator and a leader to my crew, because at that point in time I was a lead. So I kept that at 4 dosages a day. Now I transferred from the tailings department to a tank house, which everybody here watching probably doesn't know what a tank house is, but it's a place where we make the copper cathodes, like the copper mine. And there's acid mist. We gotta wear full respirators. The acid burns. It's a really hard job. It really is. It's not for everybody. And that's what attracted me to that position. I thought that's what I wanted to do. So I transferred over there. Now, when I got there, I met some people who were taking Kratom too. And that kind of became an atmosphere, because I've never really been around people that took Kratom. So, and one of the guys was taking a lot more than I was taking, so kind of piggybacked off that. After a while, it would be a time where he would take a dose, even though I just took a dose an hour prior. I'm like, you know what, yes, we got a lot of stuff to do, let's go ahead and take a dose. And it just kind of became that thing. And at that time I was still an advocate for it. And at that job, you couldn't just stop whenever you wanted to take a break, to take Kratom, or to, even get a sip of water. Sometimes you just you're busting through it. It's a very, very hard job. And that's when my dosages really became out of control, because on those days where I was running a crane, that's what we were crane operators. When I was running a crane, if I knew I wasn't gonna be able to take a break for a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours, I would take 10 grams, or I would take 5 grams. And then an hour later, if for some reason I did get a break, I'm not gonna get a break for another longer period of time, so let's go ahead and take more. And that's when the dosage just became kind of out of control. I was taking more and more and more, and your body adapts to that pretty quick. So I went from taking 20 grams a day to, when I entered the tank house, to probably, I would say, about 35 to 40 grams a day when I left the tank house. Now, when I left the tank house, I left for the job I have now, and I've been there for about almost a year. It'll be a year in October, as an electrical apprentice, a 3-year program. Now, when I got to where I'm at now, I went from a job where I was very, very busy to a job now where I'm mainly, if you know electricians, but mainly sitting down. I'm in class for 2 weeks at a time, and then I'm in the field for 2 weeks at a time. Either way, I'm sitting down, not doing a whole lot of anything. So there was times where I would be sitting there and my body would become restless, even though I just took a dose an hour and a half prior. It's time for another dose. We got a lot to get done. All of a sudden, it's go time. We've been sitting for 3 hours, but it's go time now. So I started taking more and more. And that's when, shortly after that, because I've always known I've had a problem. It's always in the back of your head. This isn't good. You're dependent on it. You need to figure this out. So I did try to come off earlier this year. I believe it was in February. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. I have a 3-day weekend. Let's get off this crap. And this is my first time I actually tried to quit, was this past year. And I came off, and oh my gosh, I didn't sleep that first night. It was horrible, horrific. I went to the gym, and my wife knew what was going on, and she was being supportive. She knows how big of a problem it was, and very supportive, very supportive. And she knew, what was going on, something was off. Well, I felt like crap, couldn't get a good workout in. And then that night, I remember laying in there. Finally, around 1 a.m., I got up and I went back to the gym just to sit in the sauna. And I spent about 2 hours there because I couldn't figure the damn thing out. And, sat in the sauna for a little bit finally. The next day, still didn't sleep. The next day, woke up, finally went to the doctor to try to get prescribed medication to help with the restlessness. And I was too scared to tell him what I was doing. And he prescribed me something. I don't remember what the medication was called, but it was like a lower end for restlessness, and it didn't work. Went back to the gym later that day, and that night I knew that I wasn't gonna get no sleep, but I still tried. Went to the gym to try to sweat it back out with the sauna, no working out, just sauna. Came back home, took a shower, laid in bed, and the restlessness was just too much. The anxiety was too much, and that was on a Friday night. Saturday morning I had an event a couple hours out of town to do a Redcon 1 event, and it was a demo I had to do, and that was when I kind of gave in. I woke my wife up. I was having not the best thoughts, and I was like, you know what, this isn't gonna work. I need to go to a rehab facility. Eventually, we need to figure this out. So I justified it again and started taking Kratom that same night. The next day, like nothing happened. I was at the event talking with hundreds of people. Nobody knew what was going on, and was defeated. But fast forward to about 2.5 months ago now. That week of class, I've been taking so much, but that week of class, I was just taking more and more, and I finally wrote it down in my phone how much I was taking. And at that time, I was taking Kratom, stem and vein, and everything else. So I was also taking the Kratom shots as well, the extracts a couple times a week. So I was just all over the place. And I remember that week very vividly. I went that whole week, and I finally logged it, realized how much I was taking, scared the shit out of me. And that's when I talked to my wife about it, because I was taking so much that I was getting to a point where I was just a zombie, and it wasn't doing anything for me. So that's when I called around, tried to find a facility in Arizona that I can go to, and called a couple different ones, tried to get some that would accept my insurance. Nobody would for just trying to get a detox from Kratom. I didn't want to go to a full-blown, facility where I was going to be there for a month. I don't have that much time. I can take off work without telling them what I'm doing, and they would let me go. But I didn't want to do that because of the position that I'm in as an electrical apprentice. There's a lot of schooling, and I don't want to get behind. So I went ahead and found one in Tucson, Arizona, and great place, and was able to check in and get myself clean. And then I talked about what happened after the detox facility in previous videos. So if you're interested, you can go back and look at those. But yeah, that's kind of how my Kratom tolerance shot through the roof. And it's crazy to think back just how your brain can justify things like that. Like, it's kind of like when you're dieting. Like right now, I'm dieting, and it's really easy to justify, okay, well, I've been doing good all week, and I can justify it for some cake or, things like that, or a burger and fries, which I'm having that tomorrow with a friend. He's coming down and work out. But that's what I mean. It's easy to justify things, and then when you're deep into some type of addiction, it's easy to justify more. Just like caffeine, you wake up, you have your coffee or whatever you do, and then later in the day you're getting tired. So what do? You drink more caffeine. I mean, it's just what we do as humans. I mean, when you're hungry, you eat. When you're tired, you drink something to wake up. When you have a headache, you take something for the headache. Things like that. So that's kind of how it spiraled out of control, way out of control.